Chapter 11:11 Using Third-Party Force to Kill. I was seriously injured after that match, said Li Laozhan. After being hospitalized for more than 2 months in the hospital, I went to his house but didn't find his shadow at all. That's why I sent some people to secretly investigate him. It was the result after painstaking efforts. But how did you come to the conclusion that he sells intel, though? Asked Tang Xiu. You gotta ask your own disciple about that, brother Tang, said Li Laozhan. Hasn't Chen Zhizhong told you about Guotao already? Huh? Tang Xiu was strangely surprised. Chen Zhizhong also knows about Guotao? The reason why my men found out Guotao is engaging in selling intel was because they bought the info from your disciple, Chen Zhizhong. Explained Li Laozhan. He may know more than I do about Guotao. I see. I'm gonna call Chen Zhizhong first, old brother, said Tang Xiu. I'll find you for some drinks later. Okay. After speaking, Li Laozhan laughed and directly hung up. Tang Xiu, however, didn't hurry to call Chen Zhizhong but slowly shut his eyes as information about the Dark Wind organization unraveled in his mind. This organization was like a pair of eyes in the sky, always staring at everything that happened in every nook and cranny of the world. It was like an invisible imperial sword hanging over everyone's head, and those who were not cautious would have their necks beheaded by it. How far are we now? Asked Tang Xiu as he suddenly opened his eyes. About 40 minutes driving, answered Jing respectfully. Don't head to the Golden Coast for now and withdraw most of our intel operatives who are still keeping an eye on that place. Tang Xiu ordered in a deep tone. Leave a few elite operatives to keep tabs on a few people. That's right, keep a close eye on Guotao. There may be a hole of breach around him. Tang An's figure silently appeared next to Tang Xiu, causing Jin Shi, who sat shotgun, have his complexion slightly changed since a bit of dread secretly rose inside him. The former then asked, how about directly sneaking there, Grand Master? Won't we be able to obtain all the information directly? I have a hunch that things are not so simple. There's more than meets the eyes here. You can stay invisible. I also have invisibility charm, but I don't think it's a very safe means. Tang Xiu shook his head. If the Golden Coast employs such strict defense and security works, it's likely they have means to detect us. That's why we can't alert them this time. We just need to focus on closely keeping tabs on one or a few people, then exploiting any breach they leave before we unravel and understand this organization thoroughly. All right, then I'll keep an eye on Guotao, said Tang An respectfully. Tang Xiu gave her a light nod and spoke again, Jin Shi, you go with Tang An. And park the car on the roadside now. I'll just take a cab to find a place to stay. Remember to immediately notify me once the targets we've determined have left the Golden Coast. Roger. Jin Shi replied. As the car was parked on the roadside, Tang Xiu got off alone. There were no buildings nearby and only bankers on both sides of the road, so Tang Xiu took out his mobile phone and dialed Chen Zhizhong's number. Master. Chen Zhizhong's respectful voice was heard on the phone. Where are you? Asked Tang Xiu. Liangong, answered Chen Zhizhong. Come over quickly to the address I'm going to text you soon. Tang Xiu ordered faintly. Keep in mind not to act ostentatiously and just come by yourself. After half an hour, a black Audi parked next to Tang Xiu. After the driver's door was opened, the black-suited Chen Zhizhong strode to Tang Xiu and spoke. Why are you in Liangong, master? That's the question I want to ask you too, replied Tang Xiu. I found the secret of an old friend and I've been following him secretly. That's why I came to Liangong, said Chen Zhizhong. Also, there are many special people gathering in a certain place in Lianggang. It's a private club called Golden Coast. I'm going to find this old friend of mine to settle our feud once their party is over. Is your old friend Guotao, by any chance? Asked Tang Xiu with squinted eyes. Chen Zhizhong looked surprised, but he shook his head and said, it's not him, but Wen Feng. Tang Xiu's eyes lit up and he said in a deep voice, "Tell me about this Wenfeng, Guotao, and that group of special people from all over who are at that Golden Coast now. Tell me everything about them." "My guess is that they are all members of the Dark Wind organization, Master," said Chen Zhizhong. "Further, today must be the important 3-year meeting of what they call Nether Swap, or shifting location, for the Dark Wind organization in China. So, these people who came to the Golden Coast today should be the heads of the Dark Wind in various provinces and cities across the country." "The Dark Wind?" Killing intent flashed in Tang Xiu's eyes as he asked again, "What is this Nether Swap or shifting location, exactly?" "It's the name of an important meeting that happens every 3 years. Chen Zhizhong explained, "As the name implies, the person in charge of each province will exchange position with the head of other provinces, as with those who are in charge of a city with another city. The entirety of the Dark Wind organization's structure and members will be completely disrupted and reshuffled, becoming responsible for new places." "Why do they do this, though? Isn't it very troublesome?" Tang Xiu wondered. "It's to prevent members of the organization from secretly developing their own private force," said Chen Zhizhong. "But how do you know so much about this matter?" Tang Xiu asked inquisitively. Chen Zhizhong fell into silence for a moment and then forced a smile. "Master, I actually used to have a lot of contact with Wenfeng and Guotao, and we even had some important issues happening then. 10 years ago, both of them looked for me, hoping to buy several precious herbs from me. We became friends after constant contact. Moreover, all 3 of us are martial artists, so our friendship continually got better since we got something in common. We then burned the yellow paper, drinking our blood to be sworn brothers then. Yet, Wenfeng's mind is like a fox full of schemes and intrigues. The more I interacted with him, the more I found that I didn't understand him, whereas Guotao is a man you can literally call ruthless. In public, he shows himself as a steady and successful man, but he changes into a wholly different man, just like when he gets drunk or when he has a fight with others." Up to this point, Chen Zhizhong then took out a half-pack of cigarettes. He took one from it and handed one to Tang Xiu. He lighted it up for Tang Xiu and lit one for himself. After taking a puff, he went on one occasion, Guotao got drunk and blabbered about the Dark Wind organization as well as his position as the head of the Shangxi branch. He also told me that Wenfeng is the supervisor in Liangyang, which the latter then found out and then tried to get rid of me. I've had a lot of clashes with them secretly, and I even thought of hiring 2 martial arts grandmasters to protect me for a while. The 2 of them dare not let others know the exposure of their identity, let alone by their superior leaders in the Dark Wind organization. They were then negotiated for me to keep their secret and they'll no longer send people to kill me. And things are not over yet, I suppose, asked Tang Xiu lightly. Intense killing intent overflowed from Chen Zhizhong's eyes. "The things are, of course, far from being over, Master. Those 2 bastards did promise with some great words, yet, they still sent people to assassinate me, and my wife died during their assassination." "And so, you've been constantly investigating them?" asked Tang Xiu. "That's right." Chen Zhizhong nodded. "I've been trying everything I could to investigate them for many years. I even bought intel on them, be it fake or true. I just don't care. What I care about is just to get more on everything they did and do every time they are in contact." Tang Xiu was silent as smoked his cigarette. Then, he asked in a deep voice, "If I were to hand you a team of powerful experts, can you be their commander? Do you have the confidence to kill all those members of Dark Wind gathering in the Golden Coast Club?" "I'm sure." "Absolutely," replied Chen Zhizhong with eyes lit up. Tang Xiu nodded and then dialed a number. Then, he spoke, "Senior Duanmu, do you want to pluck out some cancer cells in China?" "Huh? What do you mean?" replied a voice in a confused tone. "The Dark Wind," continued Tang Xiu with a deep voice. "They are very cunning and stay hidden all the time," said Duanmu Lin slowly after he was silent for a few seconds. The state intelligence operatives may have a small number of them under surveillance, but most of them are uncertain about their identity. That's why we'd better not beat the grass and frighten away the snake so as not to worry these dogs will leap over in desperation and bring dangers to the society. And if there's a chance to help the state get rid of this cancer, I wonder if you want to root them out, asked Tang Xiu. Are you sure? Asked Duanmu Lin hurriedly. Can you really dig out all of the dark wind people in China? A few fish may slip through the net, but compared with the whole intelligence network of the dark wind in China, with thousands and tens of thousands of their intel operatives, I think it can be done, said Tang Xiu. That would be worth enough to act. Absolutely. Duanmu Lin then asked quickly, where are you now, Tang Xiu? Liangong, answered Tang Xiu. I'll be there in 5 hours, said Duanmu Lin in a deep voice. Send me the specific address in Liangong and I'll be there to catch up with you soon. You have to be careful when you come over, Senior Duanmu, said Tang Xiu with a chuckle. Liangong has now become the gathering place for all the high-level executives of the Dark Wind organization in China. The number of intel operatives of this organization may be too many to count here. This city has become their den in this period. No worries, said Duanmu Lin with a full of confidence voice. Tang Xiu hung up and then smiled at Chen Zhizhong. You'll lead these experts from the Special Abilities Bureau. But, do display a good performance. We'll start the operation at once when we have more information. Chapter 11-12, Getting Tampered With. Chen Zhizhong was but an ordinary martial artist 2 years ago. He wasn't even rated as a second-rate expert whatsoever, and he could only bully some street rats then. After cultivating for 2 years, however, his cultivation level progressed and was in the late stage of foundation establishment. Killing experts at the martial arts grandmaster level was absolutely an easy task, as easy as killing an ant for him. Master. He began to speak but then hesitated. Tang Xiu seemed to understand what was going through his mind. His eyebrows raised and he asked, do you have no confidence in yourself? Just because they are definitely experts from the state's Special Abilities Bureau, so you dare not to meet them at all? I feel like that a bit, indeed, said Chen Zhizhang with a forced smile. After all, I've only been a businessman before, while they are the armed forces of the country. They may not obey my command at a critical moment even if I want to, and the consequences will be unimaginable. You also said that you used to be a businessman. But your current identity is different. You're now a cultivator, more so, one who is at the foundation establishment stage. You can say that the late stage of foundation establishment is nothing in my eyes, but you're like a powerhouse with godlike abilities in the eyes of others. Now, let me tell you something. There are no more than 5 people in the entire Special Abilities Bureau who can defeat you. Chen Zhizhong's eyes lit up with self-confidence raising up in his heart. He looked at Tang Xiu's serious expression before gritting his teeth and saying, I won't let you down, master. Definitely. Zhizhong, you must always remember that you're no longer your past self. Tang Xiu finally smiled and said, the current you is no longer limited to the business world, nor to the country. You're now my disciple, so your vision can't be confined to this earth only. The universe is vast and countless races exist. There's also a higher plane above ours with myriad races and countless walks of life, countless of whom are experts who have the ability to destroy the sky and earth with a snap of their fingers. You'll face these celestial immortal powerhouses with their godly powers in the future, not the mortal beings on earth. Hiss. Chen Zhizhong couldn't help but gasp in cold air. It was his first time hearing such a shocking statement from Tang Xiu. Master, is what you said all true? There are countless aliens in our universe and there's also a higher plane? Are there really existences who can destroy Earth with just a snap of their fingers? Chen Zhizhong's voice shivered, yet there were fear and expectation in his voice. Tang Xiu sighed inwardly. He realized that Chen Zhizhong wasn't given much guidance from him ever since the man had become his disciple. It felt rather pitiful to think that he even told him about the cultivation world and even some higher levels. After rekindling his cigarette, Tang Xiu said, "Zhizhong, I think it should be time you hand over your company to your son, no?" "Huh? Something is amiss with you." His expression suddenly changed and intense killing intent overflowed in his eyes. He immediately grabbed Shen Zhizhong's neck and a sharp dagger was ready to stab his heart. Master." Disbelief covering his face, Chen Zhizhong simply couldn't believe that Tang Xiu would attack him all of a sudden. Extend your wrist." Tang Xiu snorted coldly and ordered. Upon hearing this, Chen Zhizhong immediately extended his left wrist and felt Tang Xiu move the sharp dagger away from his heart. Only then did his expression slightly relaxed. Tang Xiu put away the dagger and checked the man's pulse. He also used his spiritual sense to inspect him and was immediately furious since there was a seal on Chen Zhizhong's body. This restriction seal was also extremely prohibiting, which not only blocked Chen Zhizhong's strength but also affected his perception, causing his spiritual sense to be trapped within his mind, all the while creating a huge discrepancy in his memory. "Master," cried out Chen Zhizhong cautiously. Loosening his neck, Tang Xiu then asked in a heavy voice with eyes full of killing intent, "Have you seen anyone after you left Kunlun Mountain? Can you think of anyone who has messed up with you and tampered with your mind?" Chen Zhizhong looked confused and shook his head. "After that? I just returned to Star City and immediately occupied myself with the company affairs, while handing over all the big and small things to my son. About every day, huh? How can I not remember anything after that?" Tang Xiu released his wrist and said in a deep voice, "Come with me." Liangyang City. The Blue Ocean Goldfine Hotel was located in the new development zone of the city, which was also a bustling area. Of the 24-story hotel building, the 20th floor was allotted as the presidential suite, which also had the most expensive rate among the hotels in the city. The room of the presidential suite 2045 was dark and cool, with the chilling wind blowing in from the outside due to the opened windows. Two figures flickered as they moved lightning fast and entered through the window. A cigarette lighter lit up a cigarette as the light reflected Tang Xiu's handsome face. "We could have checked in and taken the room directly, master." Chen Zhizhong had no idea as to why Tang Xiu didn't want to check in and rent the room but sneaked into this presidential suite instead. It must be noted that he brought a group of his men to come over and they were now staying at this hotel on the 19th floor. "No can do." Tang Xiu shook his head and said, "The entire Liangyang city should be under the surveillance of the Darkwind's intel operatives. If my guess is correct, Wen Feng must have caught the news that you've come to Liangyang. It's even highly likely that a lot of intel operatives of the Darkwind have been quietly lurking in the dark here. Once the news that I'm here is exposed, I'm sure they will start investigating my whereabouts." The explanation made Chen Zhizhong understand quickly. Then, he asked, "What exactly happened to me, master? I just can't seem to remember anything of what I was doing every day on the way here. I don't even have a clue of where I was every day either." "Someone has messed up with you and tampered with your memory," said Tang Xiu lightly. "Although the seal hasn't completely sealed your cultivation, they used the restriction seal technique very sophisticatedly. You could have lived up to 3 months safely if not for me finding out about it. But your internal organs would begin to fester and your meridians would be cut off 3 months later. At that time, no one will be able to save you unless a perfected golden immortal stage descends to Earth. Also, your memory has been affected by that restriction, causing you to forget many important things." Chen Zhizhong's complexion turned pale and fear was evident on his face. Only after Tang Xiu was done explaining did he stutteringly speak, "Master, you're right. I've always been feeling that my memory is dropping, and there's a lot more I can't even remember lately. It turns out that someone has unexpectedly tampered with it." Tang Xiu pointed to the floor in front of him and said, "Sit down and kneel. I'll help you remove the restriction on your body. Further, I'll also need a strain of serene articulation grass to awaken your sealed memory." Chen Zhizhong hastily sat down cross-legged in front of Tang Xiu and asked, "What kind of herb is this serene articulation grass, master? I've never heard of it before." "Of course. This grass is not even a medicinal ingredient. It's a plant that can cause serious damage to the human body, instead," explained Tang Xiu lightly. Generally, the poison experts and the likes who love tinkering with poison also act cautiously when dealing with this plant. They extract its internal essence and mix it up with a snake dragon to concoct a dreadful poison. "Where I can find such serene articulation grass?" asked Chen Zhizhong. "Spare yourself from worrying about that. Someone will send it tomorrow evening at the latest if there's no accident," said Tang Xiu. Having said that, he reached down to hold Chen Zhizhong's head and cast a secret art. It took only a few minutes for him to remove the restriction seal in his body. Liangang City, Golden Coast Club. In the exquisite garden European house filled with a faint jasmine scent, a thin and pale white-haired old man was sitting cross-legged on a futon in cultivation. Suddenly, his body slightly shook and he spurted out a mouthful of blood. His eyes suddenly opened and intense killing intent overflowed from his eyes. "It's broken." The skinny old man floated up and instantly appeared by the window. He watched the shadows of the trees swaying under the dark night as he slightly gripped his fists. Bang! The entire window was blasted out with just one punch. Whoosh! 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 Figures flickered and headed over lightning fast from the surroundings. In just a few breaths, tens of men in black night vests and black masks appeared outside the window. "What happened, Elder Wei?" When Feng, adorned in pajamas and slippers, moved over quickly from the distance. He looked at the old man by the window who looked sinister and furious. It suffocated him and he secretly trembled as he went forward and respectfully asked. "The seal I cast on Chen Zhizhong's body was broken," said Elder Wei. The statement surprised Wen Feng, and he said, "Elder Wei, didn't you say previously that no one besides you in this world can break the seal you cast on Chen Zhizhong's body?" "It was just cast for a bit of time, but how come?" "Shut the hell up." Eyes full of killing intent, Elder Wei stared daggers at Wen Feng. Should the latter dare to say more, he would be in for torturing death even if they both belonged to the same organization. Wen Feng held his breath. Even though he was angry inwardly, he still put on a respectful face on the surface. Others may not know how ruthless and dreadful this Elder Wei was, but he was crystal clear about it. For at least a few of the brothers who came out of the training camp with him in the past died in the hands of this geezer. Elder Wei panted and gasped a few times. His murderous eyes left Wen Feng and shifted to the direction of the city. Then, he chillingly said, "Not even a nascent soul stage expert is able to remove the seal I cast on Chen Zhizhong's body. Unless that person is skilled in the secret art of my sect and is proficient in restriction rules. Now I ask you, is there any other expert around Chen Zhizhong?" Wen Feng hesitated for a moment before saying, "I've sent men to investigate everything about Chen Zhizhong some time ago. They did find a very powerful expert around him, and the person in question is only a young man in his 20s. But, even if this person is very powerful, he shouldn't be powerful to this degree, right?" Chapter 11-13, Captured. A chilling light flashed from Elder Wei's eyes as he said in a deep voice, "Cultivators have been in existence in China, and the number is definitely more than a handful. The more powerful they are, the more they are able to change their appearances. If this person's cultivation level has reached the nascent soul stage, he can even remold and reshape his flesh and become what it was when he was young. Just who is this guy, exactly? The preliminary investigation only shows that Chen Zhizhong has taken a master about 2 years ago. But we haven't yet investigated what he has been taught specifically," said Wen Feng. "But given Chen Zhizhong's strength progress in these 2 years, what he has been taught should be martial arts or cultivation. His master is Tang Xiu, who is hailed as the young divine doctor in China, and is also the owner of China's Magnificent Tang Corporation." "The Magnificent Tang Corporation?" Elder Wei's eyes lit up. He once heard of this company. Some of the top-level existences in the Dark Wind had once schemed to obtain the sophisticated tech product of this company. It was unfortunate, however, that the Chinese authorities chose to back and support this company, so they had to cancel the plan. Given your character, you must have been careful, and you should have investigated this Tang Xiu, right? Tell me everything about him, said Elder Wei in a deep voice. A bitter smile appeared on Wenfeng's square face. He reached out to a wooden box stored in his sleeves pocket, cautiously took out a Cuban cigar from the inside, and gave it to the old Wei. He lighted it up for the old man, then bitterly smiled. Anyway, I've indeed sent out many intel operatives to investigate Tang Xiu, Elder Wei. But an invisible force that has been hindering us. That's why the information on him is very scant and pitiful. All right, I'll send someone to deliver you the information. Elder Wei glowered at him and impatiently waved. Just hurry up. I gotta figure out who's behind Xinjizhong. I wanna know who's so capable to be able to break the seal I cast on him. All right. Nodding respectfully, Wenfeng immediately ran to do his bidding. Just a few minutes later, however, he reluctantly returned to Elder Wei and bitterly said with a forced smile. Elder Wei, the branch in Liang'an just sent a message. The custodian lost the databank doors card, so there's no way to send the information immediately. I have a copy of the card, but I'm afraid I have to go back there myself. Drag that custodian to me, yelled Elder Wei. How the hell can he lose such an important thing? Such dereliction of duty will bring our organization hidden danger. What an imbecile. I'm gonna make him wish to die while keeping him alive. A chill ran down Wenfeng's back and heart. All he just said was to deceive Elder Wei, while the very reason why he wanted to leave Golden Coast was that he didn't want to stay in the Tiger Den anymore. One may be killed by this damned Elder Wei should they not pay attention, especially when the geezer was in a bad mood. If you could avoid and hide from this geezer for even a minute, you'd definitely not spend a second more in his presence. As long as this nether swap meeting was over, this old thing would leave China and there would be nothing more he would need to worry about. Immediately after, Wenfeng took his 4 confidants and rode on a car that quickly drove off the Golden Coast. Just after they left, however, the people tasked to keep an eye on the Golden Coast sent the news about it. The Blue Ocean Goldfine Hotel. Tang Xiu and Xinjizhong were hiding in the presidential suite. Suddenly, Tang Xiu's phone rang and he received the report after connecting the call. Then, he nodded and said, I see. Capture him and kill the others. After hanging up, he looked at Xinjizhong and spoke with a sneer, well, Wenfeng actually came out of the Golden Coast in the dead of the night. You have a feud with him, yet he straightly headed out in a hurry just after I broke the restriction seal in your body. There's definitely something between the two, and it's likely the person who harmed and started it all should be him. I have a question, Master, said Xinjizhong. What is it? Asked Tang Xiu. If the person who harmed me is Wenfeng or someone he asked, why didn't they just kill me directly and only cast such a restriction seal on me, instead? Don't you think all these moves unnecessary? Asked Xinjizhong. Tang Xiu's expression slightly shifted. That makes sense. They haven't killed you and instead, put such a restriction seal on you. This could mean they have some schemes in mind which start from your body. But what do they want, exactly? My guess should be my money, said Xinjizhong. It's all they can get out of me. That speaks volume, too. Tang Xiu narrowed his eyes and nodded. Your company's market value is very high, and you now have more wealth than you did 2 years ago, about double, right? What's more, you run a medicinal material business, while cultivators need these precious herbs. Thus, you naturally became prey in the eyes of many people. As long as they can control your life, they'll obtain a lot of medicinal herbs and capital in the future. Another one, Master. Didn't you say the restriction seal they cast on me will cause me to die within 3 months? Asked Xinjizhong. If I were then killed, won't that mean their control over me is gone? Hang, they have the ability to cast such a seal. It's only natural they can break it too, Tang Xiu replied with a sneer. When you fall into desperation, and if the other party tells you that they can solve it, will they just comply with your plea so easily if you ask them? Or will you give them a promise and be at their mercy and be ready at their beck and call? Chen Zhizhong went silent for a while. Then, he slowly nodded and said, that's a possibility. Besides, it's better to live than to die as one only has unlimited possibilities if he's alive. The wishful thinking of these people is indeed great, yet they straightly ignored my existence. Also, they did not expect that I can break the seal cast on you. Tang Xiu sneered. If my guess is correct, the person who has cast the seal on you must have received a backlash. We can count it as a bit of interest paid in advance. Shortly after, he made a phone call and ordered Banzhou to make a trip to his hometown, Qinghe County. He ordered him to hike the hill behind the Su family village to find the serene articulation grass. Back when he was in the back hill of the Su family village, he found a lot of them there, but he didn't collect them as he thought that there was no great use of it then, though he didn't expect that it'd actually serve its uses now. It was 2 a.m. On a broad, flat road with dimly lit streetlights, 2 SUVs were speeding like a whirlwind. At this moment, however, a chilling streak of light suddenly shone from a distance and accurately hit the tires of the forefront car. Bam! Creak! As the tries exploded and the brakes sounded at the same time, the black buggy in front turned for 6 or 7 times before it finally hit a phone pole on the roadside. The black SUV behind it abruptly stopped after the sudden braking. Wen Feng, who was sitting in the back SUV, pushed the door and vigilantly swept the surrounding with his eyes. It was all quiet, and there was nothing unusual. Then, he shouted, check those in the front car and see if anything happened to them. We're good, boss. 2 middle-aged men with a few bloodstains crawled out from the black SUV's interior in front and quickly went to Wen Feng. His complexion ugly, Wen Feng asked, what the fuck happened here? How did such good tires burst all of a sudden? I got no idea, boss. The middle-aged man shook his head. Well, I'll explain it to you. A clear voice came from the nearby trees on the roadside. The smirking Jinshi and 4 Tang sect experts surrounded the 5 people. Wen Feng's pupils shrunk. He could tell that something was amiss a moment ago, yet he didn't expect someone to ambush him on the road. He even felt amazed since the entire Liangyang city was now under the monitoring of the Dark Wind organization, where their men occupied all the key communication lines and traffic, so they could closely monitor suspicious people. And yet, where did these 5 bravados come from? Who are you? Asked Wen Feng in a heavy voice while shooting a vigilant glare at Jinshi's group of 5. I don't think you need to know that, right? Jinshi let out a faint smile. Just know that you're doomed and have no way of escaping today. Wen Feng instantly took out the pistol from his waist, unlocking its safety pin and trained it at Jinshi and pulled the trigger. Puff. A cold light flashed and Wen Feng's fingers couldn't pull the trigger completely. His wrist had been pierced by a sharp dagger, causing the man to retreat 2 steps with a groan and disbelief in his eyes. He may use guns, but his strong point was his martial arts. And yet, he was still too late to react and had his wrist stabbed by a dagger, a situation that caused a chill to run down his back. Who are you? He asked after looking around yet again but found no other figures in the surroundings. I never repeat myself. Jinshi sneered. Our target today is you, Wen Feng, so please make a trip with us. As for the rest, kill them. Whoosh. 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 The 4 men behind Jinshi instantly bolted toward the spots nearby Wen Feng. Their killing movements were like lightning bolts, and they directly killed the 4 middle-aged men, who had a drastic change in expressions. Even to extent that one of them, who killed a middle-aged man, straightly hit the back of Wen Feng's head and stunned him directly. Jin Shi looked around and said, Tang An, you can have him. Tang An's figure emerged out of thin air a few meters away from Jin Shi. At this moment, she was dragging another dead dog-like man. Should Li Laoshan be here, he'd be able to recognize the man. This person was Guo Tao, who was famous as the illustrious rich businessman in Shaanxi. Bam! Tang An threw Guo Tao on the ground and apathetically said, I don't need to cover up, but will follow you all the way to the hotel where Grand Master is. I'll directly solve all the Darkwind's intel operatives on the way there. Are you sure you can pull it off? Asked Jin Shi with knitted brows. I'll never say it if I'm not. Tang An snorted coldly. Having said that, she disappeared yet again. Jin Shi could only look at the spot where she just disappeared with a chilling and cold heart. He was very envious of Tang An's mysterious skill to appear and disappear just like that. Yet, he also knew that he could never practice this kind of technique. Chapter 11-14, Kneeling for Mercy. At the Blue Ocean Goldfine Hotel. Sitting cross-legged in the presidential suite, Tang Xiu's cell phone rang again. After putting it through, Jin Shi's voice came out from it. Sect Master, we captured the target and Tang An also has caught one. Give them to Tang An. She knows where we are, said Tang Xiu. After a while, Tang An appeared in front of Tang Xiu and Chen Zhizhong, dragging the stunned Wenfeng and Guo Tao. Immediately after, Jin Shi led the 4 members of Tang sect and quickly entered the room. Pull down the curtain and turn on the lights. Tang Xiu ordered calmly. Click. As the lights in the presidential suite were turned on, Tang Xiu went to the sofa and took a seat. He looked at Wenfeng and Guo Tao and asked, anyway, which is Wenfeng, Zhizhong? That's him. Chen Zhizhong pointed to Wenfeng. I know the other man, too. He's Guo Tao, though I didn't expect that you actually sent people to capture both of them, Master. Tang Xiu looked satisfied as he shifted to Tang An and said, wake them up. The most effective way to wake someone was to beat them up. The 2 fainted men immediately woke up, right as the 2 members of Tang's sect powerfully hit them. All right, stop. Tang Xiu lit a cigarette. As he puffed out, he looked at the 2 men's vigilant faces and lightly smiled. Well, you 2 are Wenfeng and Guo Tao, right? I've long heard your big names, you know. It's just quite unexpected that our first meeting is under this circumstance, though. Wenfeng and Guo Tao exchanged glances and the former then asked, who are you? Let's play a game, then, replied Tang Xiu smilingly. If you can guess who I am, I'll tell my man to break your leg. But if your guess is wrong, he'll break both of them. Of course, you can also opt not to answer. But the consequence is that he'll break all your limbs. How about it? Wenfeng glared at Tang Xiu in response. Then, he said in a heavy voice, this is our first meeting, brothers. There should be no deep hatred between us. Oh, no. We do have a deep feud, I think. Tang Xiu shook his head and said, didn't you notice who is standing behind you? Wenfeng and Guo Tao looked at the back at the same time and their expressions turned very ugly after they saw Chen Zhizhong. They finally realized to whose hands they had fallen at this very moment. Even the former also had figured out who the person sitting in front of him was. It was Tang Xiu, the young divine doctor of Chinese medicine in China, as well as the owner of the magnificent Tang Corporation. All right. I'm giving you 10 seconds, Wenfeng, said Tang Xiu smilingly. If you haven't answered my question by then, you'll get your all limbs broken and you'll have to live like a dead dog later on. Of course, you can hope that you'll still be alive, though. Wenfeng's heart was chilled and he hurriedly blurted out, you're Tang Xiu. Well. The intel agents of your Darkwind organization are really amazing. Tang Xiu gave a thumbs up and praised. As I recall, the contacts between me and Chen Zhizhong are but numbered over the past 2 years, yet I didn't expect that you've been able to dig out the relation between me and him. Tap, tap. Crack. Jing Shi strode forward and stepped on Wenfeng's left leg, then quickly returned to his place. Arg. Wenfeng screamed and his whole face distorted. Never did he expect the other to be so ruthless, and did what he just said and directly broke his left leg. Well then, answer me another question, said Tang Xiu with a chuckle. He'll break your arm if your answer satisfies me, but if not, you can expect to have all the remaining limbs broken too. Wenfeng's heart now fell into a glacier. He had his share of seeing ruthless and merciless men, and he was also one of them. But he was now exactly the said fish on the chopping block. Under the shadow of death, he straightly kneeled down before Tang Xiu and pleaded. Brother Tang Xiu, I should have known I mustn't scheme against Qin Zhizhong, nor did I have an enmity with him. Please let me go this time and I promise to hide far from you whenever I see you later. I'll answer all the questions you throw at me, but please don't hurt me anymore. Tang Xiu raised up his brows and asked Qin Zhizhong, well, would you like it if he's willing to resolve the feud between you two? The man in question was silent for a moment, and then slowly said, I'm very reluctant, master. But I'll listen to you. If you'd like me to no longer care about it, then I won't do so in the future. I see. Then I'll take the responsibility as your master. Your feud with them is over now. However, Wenfeng still needs to answer some questions. Please do ask. I'll say whatever I know, said Wenfeng honestly. Well, you do know that those who can play according to circumstances are all wise men, don't you? Tang Xiu gave him a thumbs up. So then, who has cast the restriction seal on Qin Zhizhong's body? Once again, Wenfeng's heart turned cold. He never thought that Tang Xiu had actually correctly guessed that this matter was related to him. He hesitated for a moment, then steeled his heart and spoke, it was Elder Wei. Elder Wei? Who the heck is that? Asked Tang Xiu. I have no idea what his full name is. Wenfeng shook his head and explained, I only know that he's the top dog in the organization, and I'm assigned as his subordinate. The reason why he acted against Qin Zhizhong is, on the one hand, I have a feud with Qin Zhizhong, while on the other hand, he wants to control him, so he can obtain medicinal herbs and the wealth of the endless virtue pharmaceuticals. So, is your organization the one called the Dark Wind? Asked Tang Xiu again. That's correct. Wenfeng nodded. It's the Dark Wind. And I'm in charge of 2 cities in China, Liang'an and Ping City, whereas Guotao next to me is responsible for the branch in Shaanxi province. Your Dark Wind organization is now gathering in Liang'an City, and it should be for the another swap a meeting occasion, right? Tang Xiu went on, are all the heads of the Dark Wind's branches in China gathered here? You even know this? Wenfeng blurted out in surprise and amazement. I know more than this. That's for sure. Tang Xiu sneered. Wenfeng was silent for a short while. Then, he suddenly asked, are you an official of Chinese authority, by chance? A weird smile appeared on Tang Xiu's face. Do you really want to know that? Wenfeng stared blankly, then his expression slightly changed. He hastily waved and said, please tell me nothing, Brother Tang. I don't want to know. It was just my cheap mouth running wild. I shouldn't ask what I shouldn't. That's right. You must know less if you want to live longer, said Tang Xiu with a chuckle. Anyway, tell me. Where this Elder Wei is now. Is he also in the Golden Coast? That's right. He's indeed in the Golden Coast at the moment. Wenfeng nodded. Also, it's actually impossible for me to leave at this time, but since his seal on Qin Zhizhong's body was broken and he received a backlash, he went ballistic and drove me out to take information about you. The answer made Tang Xiu happily nod. Now, the last question. If you can make me happy with your answer, you can be sure that I won't only kill you, but also will reward you. Please ask, responded Wenfeng hurriedly. Who's the one in charge of the Dark Wind organization in China? Asked Tang Xiu. Also, does he have a list of all the members of this organization in China? I can't answer this since I have no idea who the person in charge of Darkwind's operations in China is. Wen Feng looked bitter and shook his head. But I think I know who can answer you. Tang Xiu then turned to Guo. Gui Tang sighed inwardly before speaking, it's Wang Sheng. He's the chief in charge of the Darkwind operations in China. But he mysteriously appears and disappears. Unless he proactively finds me, I can only contact him through the intel network of the Darkwind at the end of the year. Additionally, the structure of the intel network changes annually, and I haven't gotten into contact with him this year, so I don't know where he is. What about the list, then? Asked Tang Xiu in a deep voice. Wang Sheng is the general manager of China's Darkwind, so he naturally holds the list of all the Darkwind's intel operatives in China. Guo nodded and added, I only have a list of all intel agents in Shaanxi. Tang Xiu was very satisfied with their answers. Although he already knew that both of them were ruthless and brutal men, they also feared death. They would never be loyal to the Darkwind organization when being faced with death itself. Loyalty to the organization was absolutely not worth losing their lives. Thus, they would definitely be able to play some good roles if he were to make good use of such people. Alrighty. Jin Shi, heal his leg. Tang Xiu ordered. Jin Shi quickly complied and strode towards Wen Feng. He grabbed his bare feet and connected his leg bones. Amid the man's screeching screams, he used his true essence energy to nourish the man's broken bones and slowly said, Don't use your left leg for 10 days. Wen Feng was ecstatic as he finally realized that Tang Xiu wouldn't kill him at all, else he would have never let his man carry out such unnecessary action to heal himself. What else do you want to know, Boss Tang? I'll tell you everything I know.
Yeah,
Me too, blurted Guo in a muffled voice. I've already asked everything I wanted to know, and I'm happy with your answers. Tang Xiu smilingly said, but if I'm going easy with you, though, you're gonna kick me into troublesome issues once you ran back to the Golden Coast and tell the Darkwind's people about me. So, you two will still need to accept my condition. You can leave if you accept it. We'll comply with any conditions. I'll comply too. Both answered at the same time. Tang Xiu instantly seized Wen Feng's and Guo Tao's shoulders. After he cast the soul-ruling spell on the two men, he then spoke with satisfaction, I have cast a seal on you. My restriction seal is 100 times stronger than the one old ghost Wei cast. So to say, your lives will be in my hands from now on, and you two will die without a burial place with just a thought of mine. Wen Feng and Guo Tao exchanged dismayed glances and looked at a loss. They were already well aware that Tang Xiu wouldn't just let them go that easily. They could feel a dark and faint sensation that let them know that Tang Xiu didn't tell lie. Their lives were indeed in his hands. Chapter 11:15, Stretching Muscles. Only at this moment did Wen Feng regret appearing in front of Elder Wei tonight as well as telling him about Tang Xiu. Had he not done it, he wouldn't have to leave the Golden Coast Club and thus, barring the possibility to be captured by Tang Xiu's men, causing his life to be under his control. At the end of the day, however, there was no medicine for regret in this world, so he could only suppress his unwillingness and respectfully inquire. You haven't yet said your conditions, Boss Tang. My only condition is for you to keep following this way, old freak. You are to give him my information and pretend that nothing happened. Afterward, you are to take this drug to the Golden Coast Club and put it into the dishes before they feast. With that said, he took a porcelain bottle from the interspatial ring and threw it to Wen Feng. The drug won't kill them, it'll only make them weak in a short time. When they eat the drugged meal, you are to immediately inform me and I'll lead some people to kill all the members of Darkwind in the whole territory of China. But Boss Tang, it will only spell doom for us if you kill all the Darkwind's members in China, Wen Feng blurted out in shock. Are you perhaps still unaware of how strong the Darkwind organization is? The organization may hide in the dark, but its overall strength is by no means inferior to the world's top 3 forces. The headquarter will definitely send elite warriors over here once all the members die, and they will investigate you for sure. I'm confident that those people sent by the Dark Wind won't be able to investigate me. But even if they can, what can they do to me, huh? Tang Shou sneered. If anything, if it wasn't for my hands have been getting tied by many things, I'd have already destroyed the entire Dark Wind organization. A cancer-like existence who has been keeping tabs on everyone's private issues and selling them, huh? When Feng exchanged dismayed glances with Guo yet again. Both of them had seen their share of arrogant people, but one with such a big mouth like Tang Shou was unprecedented. The ignorant fear nothing. The two men grunted this sentence inwardly a few times and couldn't help but sigh secretly. They were well aware that they could only follow this man's orders since their lives were under his control. We agree. Both men nodded without many words as when Feng carefully received the porcelain bottle. A short while after both men had been taken away by Jing, Tang Shou then spoke to Qin Jizhong. There are still some problems with your body, so I won't give you the commanding power I told you. You should go to sleep first. You should be able to remember a lot of things then. You don't need to worry. I guarantee all your shrouded memories will all be back within 7 days. Chen Zhizhong silently knelt before Tang Shou and kowtowed thrice. Then, he said, "Thank you, Master. I'll always remember your kindness. Spare me the kindness and virtue." Tang Shou waved and said, "You're just my in-name disciple. But I'll take you in as my true disciple if you can break through to the spirit formation stage in a few years. Only then will I teach you more powerful cultivation arts as well as many immortal skills and secret arts." The spirit formation stage? Qin Zhizhong gripped his fists and a resolute look glinted in his eyes as he replied in a deep tone. "I'm confident I can break through to the spirit formation stage in the next few years, Master. Though I have no idea where that confidence comes from." Tang Shou felt amused inwardly. Qin Zhizhong had obtained the inheritance of the Diablo Precantator clan, and thus, he was no longer what he used to be. Just his physique and constitution alone could be ranked at the top few among his disciples. If he couldn't break through to the spirit formation stage in a few years, there must be a problem. Time fleeted by and the clock now pointed to 4 in the afternoon in the blink of an eye. As Tang Shou sat cross-legged in the presidential suite of the hotel while silently absorbing the demonic energy contained in the demon core, the presidential suite's door was knocked and Duan Mulin's voice was heard from the outside. "Tang Shou, it's me. Open the door." Tang Shou floated up and instantly appeared before the door and opened it. He saw two men outside, Duan Mulin and Zhu Long, and then gestured for them to come inside. "How's the current situation here, Tang Shou?" The Dark Wind organization obviously gave quite a dread to Duan Mulin given the expression on his face. He even seemed to want to eliminate it from China, looking impatient and just couldn't wait to ask. "My men have been monitoring the vicinity around the Golden Coast Club," Tang Shou replied. "It's been confirmed that the top executives of the Dark Wind organization in the whole China have gathered there. And I believe we can take this chance to act if Senior Duanmu wants to remove this organization." Duanmu Lin's eyes flashed with chilling lights as he asked in a deep tone, "How sure are you, exactly?" 100%? Although there are only about a dozen men of mine who have come to Liang'ang, I'm confident that none of those people can escape as long as the number of experts from your Special Abilities Bureau is more than ours, replied Tang Shou. Though we have been constantly killing the demonic beasts in the Himalayas, most of the experts of my agency are still there. I've only brought about 20 men here this time. Duan Mulin forced a smile. But if you need it, I can mobilize the army to surround them. I'm sure the Darkwind's intel operatives won't be as powerful as cultivators, no? Tang Shou was silent for a moment before waving. The Dark Wind has rooted deep in our country and they may have planted some people in the police force and the garrison of Liang'ang City. We can't just mobilize the army that easily just to deal with them. Wait for some time. I've set some chess pieces in secret. If these guys can perform well, We're going to have a total of nearly 40 men who can eliminate those people in the Golden Coast Club. Huh? What secret chess pieces? Asked Duanmu Lin hurriedly with a slightly shifted expression. It won't be a surprise anymore if I disclose it now, don't you think so, Senior Duanmu? Tang Xiao let out a mystifying smile and said, anyways, let's just wait until we got the news from that side. Only then will we act. Then what are we gonna do now? Just wait here, asked Duanmu Lin. No, we're moving in separate teams. Tang Xiao shook his head and explained. We'll form some small teams and secretly sneak into the Golden Coast Club, and then we're to wait there until the time comes. All right, I'll listen to you. Duanmu Lin nodded. They had cooperated many times and Duanmu Lin had absolute trust in Tang Xiao's abilities. The results had been much to his satisfaction every time Tang Xiao was involved. At the Golden Coast Club. In a large conference hall that was enough to accommodate thousands of people, hundreds of senior executives of China's Darkwind branch took seats. Yet, the atmosphere of the entire hall was very strange. No one spoke and nobody moved around. Everyone just sat still quietly in their seats or shut their eyes, playing with their gadgets, while some others looked to be in a daze. Pa. The conference hall's door was pushed hard and 8 burly men in black suits and black sunglasses strode inside, garnering everyone's attention. A black-suited middle-aged man with long black hair but very plain face then stepped into the hall. His sharp eyes swept over the hundreds of people in the hall before he strode to the podium. Gentlemen, my name is Wang Sheng. A cold voice instantly spread to everyone's eyes. Buzz. In that instant, hundreds of people abruptly got up and bowed to Wang Sheng. They all knew the name, but none of them had seen Wang Sheng in person. They all knew that this man was the general director of China's Darkwind organization. A man with a detached and far-reaching position from the Darkwind's HQ. Sit. Wang Sheng spoke this one word with a nod. A burly man then quickly moved a chair and placed it behind him. Below the podium, Wen Feng was quietly observing Wang Sheng as it was his first time seeing this man. He was aware that some important things were to be announced since this great personage had come in person. Wang Sheng had never attended a meeting before, let alone been exposed to everyone. No matter what happens, I'm afraid the Darkwind will no longer exist in China after today. Wen Feng glanced to the left and found that Guo was also looking and slightly nodding to him. Wang Sheng's eyes constantly moved to the face of every member of the organization. After the brief opening speech, he straightly moved to the main topic. All of you are the elites, and you've also contributed to the organization. You are all aware that the Darkwind has been hidden behind the scenes while monitoring the events around the world, all of which makes us the most mysterious existences in the eyes of many people in the world. However, the order I just received from the HQ states that the organization is going to announce and expose the armed forces we have to the public. By that time, we will make people around the world know that we're the strongest force in the world. Going to the surface, as in, standing on the front stage. Hundreds of people looked shocked by the news. As of recently, the Darkwind has been hit with heavy losses. Many forces believe that our organization is just a pure intelligence organization with no strong force to back us up. Hence, the big boss decided to stretch our muscles and make those who have been targeting us to put their claws away, or else it will be us who will cut their claws off. At this time, the eyes of Elder Wei, who stood at the front, lit up. He slowly stood up and said, I've received an order from the organization to Wang Sheng. But I think it's a wrong decision to go against China at this time. The situation in this country is rather special, and we will be immediately suppressed by the state's official forces once we do our show of force. I've already reflected this situation as well. Wang Sheng nodded. That's why the order from the HQ is still in accordance with the original order, added that we're going to be given additional staff to set up a legal security company in China.